Since we're currently exchanging all of the lanyards on our Deadeyes for Gleaston Thimpest, I thought this might be a perfect opportunity to show you how it's done. For thousands of years, long before we had bottle screws, Deadeyes were how sailors supported the masts on their ships. Deadeyes come in matched pairs, an upper and a lower. The upper has one hole which is not faired in like this to avoid chafing the lanyard. That is where the lanyard always goes through first. This is a lanyard I made up for the job. It's whipped on one end and has a star knot on the other end. Before we put the lanyard in place, I'm going to put a little bit of beeswax in the holes to help it feed through. This is a mixture of beeswax and Stockholm tar that we make here on board. It's damn handy stuff to have around. The lanyard always feeds through from left to right, and since we're on the starboard side, that means it starts on the forward edge. Now you can see why that one hole was not faired in, because that's where the stopper knot goes. In essence, Deadeyes are just static pulleys. Hauling up on the lanyard tightens the rigging and, in this case, supports a topmast. Originally, these would have been tightened by a large block and tackle with a few people hanging off of it. But these days we have an easier method. I start by lashing a tail line around the shroud I want to tighten. I use a simple midshipman's hitch, or what some people call a tent knot. That won't budge, it's good and tight. It's important you don't try to take it up all at once, because what will happen is it will get very tight here, but stay loose here. So to solve that problem, you pull, push, pull, like this, to work the slack through. Then have another go at it. Now to block this so it doesn't come loose, I use an old Swedish fid. I have two of these. One I use for rope work and another for the rough stuff. This is the one for rough stuff. I position it so the rounded side presses against the lanyard. You want it in nice and snug, but don't hit it too hard since that could split the Deadeye. Be careful not to haul them up too hard, since that could wring the mast. Most people don't understand the force these Deadeyes can develop. Now here's the trick to locking it closed. You bring it through the eye, then under this one and haul it up snug. Now, some people like to go over and others go under at this point. I figure either way works just fine, so it's up to you. Once you have that knot in place, the lanyard is secure, so you can take away the fid. There was a reason I left a tiny bit of slack in there. We're now going to lash them together. Now there are many different ways of doing this. Just about every book you find has a different system. But as someone once said, every skipper has his own compass. So what I'm going to show you is my way, and I do it this way for a reason. These lashings not only tighten up the shrouds, they also provide you with a safety factor. You start by pulling the seizing line through the spliced loop so that it leads this way. As you seize the two strands together, pull the line tight. I'm not making these too tight for now since the line is new, so I expect it to stretch. I plan on letting it sit for a few days to stretch out and settle in before I do the final tightening up and lashings. To finish the lashing, you pull the tail through here and over the last turn. Pull it up tight and that jams in place and will not move. In a few minutes I'll put a whipping on the end just to hold it down. Makes me feel better. Now this is how you lash down the ends to ensure they cannot come loose if the rigging starts working in a seaway, and if you ask me, it puts a nice seaman-like finish on the job. Put a drop or two of super glue on those two ends and they'll never come loose. I'm not going to do it now because I will be taking this off when I retighten it. And that is how it's done. But as I said, there are many different ways of doing this. Basically, what I've shown you may not be the fancy way, but it works. These lashings act as shock absorbers. As the boat rolls, they expand and contract, and should one of the lanyard strands chafe through, they seize the other strands together so you have time to slap a stopper on the shroud.